Morning. Don't really have an opening statement for you men and women today, so, man, I'm let you guys shoot.
Word that maybe best describes Jack Campbell is serious.
Yeah.
Just wondering how maybe his attitude has helped his acclimation. It seems like he's coming along as expected.
Well, I would say this about Jack. He came from a program, I think he was coached really, really well. There's some concepts that we do somewhat different than what he's used to, but he is a very serious operator, and he takes his job serious. That's one thing that we liked about him. That's why we drafted him where we did. His ability, his physicality, his skill set, and what he can do for our defense. So he's a good player. He's a good player, but he's still learning.
Rookies that have opened eyes. I mean, and Brian, obviously Broderick getting some one reps too. Is it too early to know how much those guys can help you this year? What are sort of your expectations for them after seeing them for a week and a half?
Well, here's the thing that's funny to me is we hear all the writing that's going on about guys getting reps with the ones, and just like you said, Branch getting reps with the ones. Listen, guys, we're going to play guys with different packages. We're going to play guys with the ones. We're going to play guys with the twos because you don't want guys going against the same guys every time. All right, so don't get so caught up in where guys are at. Right, that's been my philosophy for the longest. I learned that from Bill Parcells back in the day, and we're going to continue to do that. Now, you'll see that with the offense also. I mean, Dan's a product of Coach Parcells also, so that's the things that we do. We just don't pick guys in one spot and just let them play, so please don't get caught up in all of that.
Beyond that,
Say it again.
But beyond that, do you have a sense of how much they can contribute? I mean, regardless.
He's going to contribute, but we drafted him. That's the only reason you draft guys, to play. So every guy that we drafted, they have an opportunity to play, and they decide that. And we'll see that during camp.
We saw CJ go down, obviously, and come back, as quickly as he could. I guess your reaction to it when you saw it, and then, his mentality, how he said, I'm not sitting back with it. I'm like, he said he was like the flu. He was like, his attitude was infectious. I guess your reaction to the injury and then seeing him bounce back, does that do something for the team as far as just showing that mentality, that dog, early on?
My reaction to every injury that we have is going to be the same. I hate to see guys go down because it affects them personally. It affects us as a team. So I don't know what reaction that you're talking about, or anything like that, but that won't change with me, whoever it is. But the fact that, he got injured and he can't, it's part of the game. It's the biggest equalizer in our game is injuries. So what the player has to understand is get back as fast as you can. And if you're able to do that, man, we're looking forward to have you back on the field. We want good players on the field.
Josh Paschal was dealing with that sports front injury pretty much all last offseason. Didn't get a chance to start training camp. Just maybe what the difference a year has made for him from the outside. The team looks real strong, taking care of his body, and just what you expect from him in year two.
That's one player that I'm very excited for. For the simple fact of what you just said, that he really didn't get a chance to go through training camp last year. He really didn't get a chance to go through an off-season program last year, and he's been able to do that. So I think we're starting to see the fruits of that, show up. He's a powerful, physical man. And again, that's why we drafted him in the second round. We expected those things from him. And he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a really good player, and I'm excited to see what he's going to give us during the season.
You want to follow up what Tim was saying there with Josh, Aiden, Kaminsky, healthy Romeo, healthy Charles. You got a lot of depth and talent at the edge, and that's the way it should be year three, right? You should have a lot of healthy competition. How much time do you spend thinking about how to utilize all those guys because they obviously can't all be on the field at once?
Well, I would say this, in the NFL, you try to go get good players. And I think that's every team. So the fact that we have a good amount of good players at that position, there's no shock to anyone because that's what you try to do, especially guys that can go get the quarterback. So, and that's something I think about quite a lot, to be honest with you. How do you utilize each player, and how can you have different packages with those players in, and who do you put together to be able to schematically do things that you want to do? So we're going to continue to do that. I actually love being able to do that because I love being able to see how I can get offense to react to certain packages that's in, and we've been doing a pretty good job of that with the guys we have.
How does Julian Okwara take a step forward to become a big part of that?
Keep practicing. That's what training camp's for. Listen, no one's grandfathered in here. It's been like that since we got here. You earn your keep. And I've said that before. That's not going to change.
I wanted to ask about James Houston. How have you assessed that he's handled the challenge to continue his development, working to be a every down player?
He's handled it very well. And he understands that. And I'm going to say the same thing. You earn your keep. And you develop as a player. And our job as the coaches is to make sure we develop that player. And he's one player that's working his butt off, too. He is working his butt off to do the things that we need him to do to improve. So I like exactly where he's at.
When you guys drafted Broderick, you said there's, it's going to take some time. He's a kind of a developmental player. Has he been on the right path, kind of the path that you'd like to?
Yes, he has. He has. And that's the reason why we want to see him against some of the ones, see exactly how he's going to operate. That's not an easy job going against Ragnow now. It's not an easy job. But the only way to find out is to put his ass in there and see what he's going to do. That's exactly what we did. And we're going to continue to do that with a lot of guys that we have. That's why Branch is getting reps against St. Brown. To get better, you got to go against good players. That's what we're going to do.
Early results with maybe both Broderick and Brian?
Yes, I have liked them. Some of them I did and some of them I didn't. But that's just how it is as a coach.
You see that first rep with Broderick, the full team drill where he beats Ragnow and makes the tackle in the backfield.
Yeah.
I mean, how much does that excite you as a coach?
That's exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
So, some good, some bad. He got his ass kicked on some of them, too. So, but that's the NFL.
Speaking of some highly drafted players that haven't had a lot of opportunity because of injury, what have been your impressions of Levi and how he's responded to missing a whole year of football?
Tell you what, man, that is take coaching, take all that aside. Now this is take coaching hat off. This former player to see someone be able to have the injury, especially a back injury at that position, to come back and be able to just fight, strain, and grind. Man, it feels good for him. It feels good for us to see that. I mean, in practice the other day, he had a situation where he got bent back quite a bit. And my first reaction was like, oh. And man, he just got up, got back in the huddle and got to the next play. And I felt really, really good about that. The fact of the matter that he can go through that, it tells me and it tells him more than anything, I'm okay. I'm okay. And we had a conversation this offseason. I said, Levi, listen, if you're going to do this, then let's go all in. Let's go all in. Let's go play. He said, I'm with you, coach. And that showed up in practice, especially on that play.
Just to follow up on that, did he have thoughts about not coming back because of that?
I don't know. I mean, in every player's mind, when you have an injury, especially that, I'm sure you think about it. I mean, it's part of life. But the fact of the matter is, he's out on the field for us and he's playing.
What can he provide you guys? The healthy version of him,
Yeah.
if he stays that way, just the type of player, how he fits into your scheme there, just what does he provide you?
Interior pass rush. Levi's naturally strong as a player. Obviously, he didn't get a chance to do all the weight room work that you want him to do. So I would say that player is still in the developmental phase also, because he didn't really get a chance to do the things that's expected of a defensive lineman coming into the NFL. So he still has a ways to go, but I like exactly where he's at.
Emmanuel Moseley was do that today. Just how much ground does he have to make up after missing? I know he's in that, but after missing a week and a half here.
Well, I will say this: Emmanuel's been in every meeting, not physically, but mentally. So obviously, if you're not practicing, if you're not actually physically out there, there's going to be an adjustment. And once he gets back, I'm sure, because he's a pro. He's an absolute pro. So I have no issue with that player understanding exactly what we're doing. It's just the fact of getting back there as a defensive back and doing all the movements and things like that to get back in the groove. Yes.
Earlier this spring, Coach Campbell talked about Kelvin Shepard and his development as a coach and the bright future he has in this league, possibly as a coordinator or a head coach. What's it been like adding John Scott Jr. to your coaching room, and do you see him on a similar trajectory?
Well, I would say this. John Scott was at the Jets when I was there as a scout, so we knew each other then. Todd Bowles is a really, really good friend of mine, really good friend. And he was there with him also as the coach. And then Casey Rogers is another good friend of mine. And as you look around, you start to ask these coaches about D-line coaches. Man, that's a job that you want to pick the right guy. Like the right guy, O-line and D-line. You want to make sure you got the right guy, the right mentality, the right type of grit to you to coach those guys. So he fit the bill on all those things. And he is a technician, exactly what I'm looking for. And there's a certain way I want our D-line to play. And he knows exactly what that is, because I've seen him do it, and I've seen him been around other coaches that coach like that. So once we got a chance to sit and talk to him, like, it was a no-brainer, all right, to pick that guy up. So he's doing a heck of a job for us.
Just a couple things you've seen from Starling Martin, a couple undrafted guys, Gilmore, getting some opportunity, making some plays here and there. We saw obviously Starling in the spring play pretty well. Just what you see from a couple of those undrafted guys.
Listen, I think the first thing that I would say about that is, man, just like our personnel guys do a heck of a job of finding these type of guys. I guess it's starting to be a trend of us finding like DBs, you know, so I appreciate what those guys do and the work they put in. So now Starling, he is physical, he can run, he's highly competitive, he's raw. Those same things I told you about Jerry when he was here. And our guys do a really good job of understanding those traits that we need as an undrafted free agent to be able to come and compete, to be a part of this team. Now, he still has a ways to go, and we're not locking him in on as a guy that's going to make the team or whatnot. But again, to see if he can play, you got to let him play the first team. So please stop writing he's with the first team. Please. All right? He's getting his reps.